Usually, it's not too tough to guess how a film is going to turn out, especially in the days of multiple trailers for different regions, teasers for those trailers, and even sometimes teasers for the teasers. Other times, it's not quite as easy, as these films of surprising Rotten Tomatoes scores prove. Mortal Engines should have been a surefire hit. It's got Peter Jackson as a co-producer and co-writer, and is based on a successful YA franchise. Heck, it's about giant mobile cities that eat each other to survive. Seems like a license to print money. But unfortunately, that still wasn't enough to succeed with fans and critics. Earning a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes is rough by almost any standard, but there's something odd about watching a film that seems tailor-made to launch a massive franchise sputter out before it even left the starting line. The Mortal Engines didn't just bomb with critics. According to IMDb, the film has an estimated budget of $100 million, and as of late January 2019, it had just barely cleared the $80 million mark in worldwide gross. It's doubtful we'll see a follow-up no matter how ready-made for success Mortal Engines seems on paper. The Transformers franchise isn't exactly known as a critical darling, even if it does seem to have the uncanny ability to print money. While the original live-action entry for the robots in disguise earned a surprisingly respectable 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, subsequent entries haven't fared as well. Few would reasonably expect the first Transformers spin-off to roar into theaters with a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes to round out 2018. Luckily, Bumblebee has got some star power in its tank and a can't-miss formula as its chassis. Director Travis Knight injects the flick with late 80s flavor thanks to its period setting and a Guardians of the Galaxy-like approach to the soundtrack, picking appropriate, timely hits to keep the energy up. Meanwhile, Haley Steinfeld's turn as a young Charlie gives the movie more than enough heart to let audiences get invested in her friendship with the anthropomorphic VW Bug.
Hide behind!
The first Mamma Mia movie was a hit with fans of the original Broadway musical and anyone who knows the truth that ABBA rules. That didn't necessarily translate to making it a hit with critics, since it was only able to attain a 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. But the truly baffling decision to stage a sequel ended up paying off both critically and financially. The fantastically titled Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again is certifiably fresh at 81% and raked in $394 million at the box office. While much of the enjoyment of the sequel comes from the ridiculous setups for its musical set pieces, the true shining beacon of Here We Go Again is Cher, who steals every scene she's in as the mother of Meryl Streep's character. The raucous Mediterranean musical celebration is dripping with schmaltz, but it works.
Oh, it's not punishment, it's the opposite.
It's like a gift to myself.
Walking the very thin line between earnest and cheesy makes for some magical moments in what could have been a money-grabbing, soulless sequel. Nicolas Cage doesn't seem like he can say no to a movie, which often leads him to getting stuck in some absolute clunkers. However, his chaotic, messy turn in Mandy arrives in service of the first film in years to take full advantage of Cage at his peak gonzo sensibilities. Mandy became an instant cult hit and had critics raving after its release, resulting in a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. Mandy follows Cage on a mind-bending, gory journey of revenge aimed at a cult and a group of drug-addled demon bikers. It doesn't necessarily sound like a movie that might be sitting at the top of critics' list in 2018, but fans and critics alike responded to the stylized violence and shocking imagery of Mandy. The perfect storm of Academy Award and Golden Globe Award nominee Ava DuVernay, directing an adaptation of the children's classic A Wrinkle in Time, still couldn't wow critics. The film is currently saddled with a 42% on the service, with an even lower fan rating of 28%. A Wrinkle in Time introduces audiences to the precocious Meg Murray, played by newcomer Storm Reed, as she's led on a time and space-bending journey in search of her father. While some critics were wowed by the film's CGI wonders, others felt that the effects bogged the film down and made it a little too cheesy.
That's one word for it.
The film wears its heart and ambitions on its sleeves, and it will be interesting to see if it persists as a cult favorite. 2018 ended up being a banner year for Spider-Man related media. While Venom took a bit of a beating from critics, the film has amassed a fervent fanbase and more than made back its estimated $100 million budget. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse could have been the animated also-ran to cap off the year, but it ended up blowing the Spider-Man franchise wide open and impressing critics at the same time. It's currently sitting at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. Spider-Verse's stellar animation alone will set it up to be a game-changer, but the immense heart at the core of the story propels it into something truly special. Even critics exhausted by the superhero movie bubble had to admit that Into the Spider-Verse was a step above.
Wherever I go, the wind follows. And the wind, it smells like rain.
Game Night could have come and gone without much fanfare due to its incredibly generic and bland marketing campaign, which hid a raucous, critic-pleasing comedy. The movie stars Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman as a competitive couple who have bonded over their shared love of games. Kyle Chandler, playing Bateman's brother, hosts a game night framed as an immersive experience in which one of the guests is kidnapped. The twist? The kidnapping is real.
First one that follows us gets shot.
Okay, roger that. You drive safe.
Come on,
That was amazing. Really gross. That was really good.
Adam Graham of the Detroit News gave Game Night credit for being an adult movie that never stooped to lowbrow humor, calling it, quote, a crowd pleaser to which you'll want to be invited. All that positive buzz added up to Game Night scoring an 84% overall rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Duncan Jones is an interesting director with a tomato meter record that was only recently derailed by his odd stint as a director of the critically ill-fated Warcraft movie. Before that, he was riding high with the low-key sci-fi masterpiece Moon and his 2011 follow-up, the Jake Gyllenhaal thriller Source Code. Warcraft was still a financial success, especially outside the United States, but fans were eager for Jones to return to his own stories, characters, and worlds. His next piece of work, 2018's Netflix-distributed Mute, was described as a Blade Runner-esque excursion, suggesting a strong rebound. Not quite. While Mute looked like a return to form, it ended up being a generic, lifeless mess with not much to say and not much to show for it except a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. What happens when a troubled biopic about an infamous gangster that's been in production for years ends up being a dull, boring slog anchored by a bizarre performance from John Travolta? It nets a resounding 0% overall on Rotten Tomatoes. Biopics starring famous actors are usually critical hits. This one, not so much. Rolling Stone's Peter Travers spoke for many of his peers when he compared it to a lifeless version of The Sopranos.
I can't watch this again.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.